the 8th President of Uganda, General Tito Okello Lutwa. Tito Okello Lutwa is born in Namukora, Kitgum, just when the First World War began. When he turned 26, he joined the King African Rifles, the regional colonial army at that time. It was around the same time that 𝐏𝐫𝐴𝐻 also joined the King African Rifle. He was moved to Kenya and battled the Mau Mau uprising, a Kenyan movement fighting for independence from the British. When Uganda got her independence, Tito Okello came home and continued working for the Uganda Army. He rose to the rank of lieutenant in 1962, and by 1968 he had reached the rank of colonel. At the same time, he was one of the highest ranked soldiers in the country. When Obote's government was overthrown by 𝐏𝐫𝐴𝐻 in 1971, Tito Okello narrowly survived being captured by a means henchman. And if they did capture him, they were going to kill him. The general managed to sneak out of the country through Masaka, Mutukula, and into Tanzania. I can still remember that when he was in Tanzania, he's one of the top commanders that organized Ugandan exile into a force that later finally took down 𝐏𝐫𝐴𝐻 regime. He was then named Army Commander, a position he held for some time. After the war, he became a part of the military commission, which was the supreme body composed of former exile that led the country through a transitional period. Throughout the 80s, Tito Okello Lutwa was a part of Uganda National Liberation Army that fought insurgency, including the National Resistance Army, NRA, in Luweero Triangle. He was promoted to Lieutenant General in 1984, partly as appreciation for his professionalism and partly as a man who can unite a group of people. And during his time as the commander of the army, he stopped a lot of division between the army, especially between the Langis and the Acholi at that moment, because the situation was bad, as some of the Langi themselves were causing havoc in Kampala and Luweero Triangle. Obote had to keep the army together. serious division broke out within their rank, as 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐽, the UNLM soldiers, were suffering at the hand of the NRA. They actually accused the Langish counterparts of doing nothing serious to fight NRA. People like Agera and his groups were terrorizing people in Kampala and Lubero. On top of that, Tito Okello had been someone who had always worked hard for the unity of Uganda. He had always did his best with respect. He's a military man, a soldier, a gentleman, and an officer. He takes everybody equal. In most cases, people try to associate him with DP, Democratic Party, that is a sympathizer of Democratic Party. But that is not true. He's a man who has vision. He's a man who can see further than you and me. He's a man who wanted unity for all Ugandans. He worked very close with 𝐏𝐾𝐝𝐻, the Chief of Staff. And 𝐏𝐾𝐝𝐻 was also the man who knows how to deal with people, who knows how to unite people, who knows how to keep people together. But when it was taken away from us, then things started falling apart for the president, Dr. Milton Obote. When he made a decision to appoint a junior officer to the position of Chief of Staff, it was a disaster. Not only for himself, but for the people who had been working in the army, the people who fought these wars, sacrificing their life to bring him back to that position. What he should have done, he should have respected the promotion rules within the Uganda National Army. He bypassed that rule, he didn't respect that rule, and he appointed a junior officer, Oponachak, to become the Chief of Staff. Replacing the late David Oyito-Jok was an insult to a lot of people, was an insult to people who understand how business should be done, to people who understand how a state is run. If we turn to favorism as a way of leadership, then we are born to fail. And this time, it did happen. As I told you before, that most of our leaders, usually, when in power, they go back to their bases, villages, tribe, and in that process, they begin to make a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes do mess them up. when they mess up, they don't understand the real goal of ruling a state. In 1985, an army brigadier, commander, brigadier, Bazilio, Olara, Okello, staged a coup and overthrew Dr. Apollo Milton Obote for the second time. The National Assembly was dissolved and a military council was established to rule the country. First with Bazilio and later General Tito Okello as chairman. At the same time, the rebels used that opportunity to cause more confusion around the country by awakening rebel groups that were put out of action and are lining up with some of the Amin's ex-group, having taken advantages of the chaotic situation in the country caused by the power struggle between the army and the government. They demoralized and disintegrating Uganda National Liberation Army. A lot of promises were made. A lot of promises were made. Money was used to buy both the Acholis and the 𝐏𝐴 in the armed forces. Some of those who sold out the people are no longer alive today to enjoy that moment. They brought them in and took them away. That is what you get if you become too greedy. A lot of people, a lot of money changes hand. We had to learn the hard way. When we talk about the peace talk in Nairobi, let me be clear. Tito Okello Lutwa is a man and was a man who really wanted to bring unity amongst Ugandans. As I said before, sometimes people mistake him to be a sympathizer of Democratic Party. But to be honest, he was just a professional soldier who listened to everyone, from low to high, a child to a grown-up. He invited all parties fighting each other to join in a national reconciliation and national building, nation building. Most of the major rebels groups accepted his invitation, except the NRA, the political wing of the NRM, who failed to turn up for the first round of talk in Dar es Salaam. Maybe because they were suspicious about Julius Nyerere's relationship with Milton Obote, and they decided to ask for another venue that fit their own interests. And that venue was picked. It was in Nairobi. Accepted by all the players, by both sides. The Kenyan delegation was aided by Daniel Arap Moi. The NRM was not happy. They were very angry that the revolution that they fought for 4 years was hijacked by Uganda National Liberation Army. They were very annoyed. And that annoyance probably developed into something even bigger than you and me. Because during the peace talk, which some people call the peace joke, they were accepting and then coming back and then refusing and then going back and then accepting and then coming back, and then you cannot imagine. Our leaders should have known that there was something wrong. Because when they were playing that game, at the same time, they were promising a lot of those commanders in Western Uganda protection. And those protection had been promised by religious leaders. And that is another question for another day, to find out what is really the role of religious leaders in wars and overthrowing government. Why do they promise military leaders protection? And this is exactly what happened when the peace agreement in Nairobi was taking place. In Western Uganda, the commandants were asked to hand over their bases, and they did. Because some religious leaders promised them protection, a protection that never came, and those people died before even enjoying the money or the protection promised to them. We know that they fought for 4 long years, and I understand why NRM was so annoyed with the army. Because, let's be honest to ourselves, NRM war did not liberate Uganda. Did not. But we Ugandans are very blind, are very blindfolded. We don't see what is in front of us. We don't see what is happening. When you talk about a revolution, you talk about the people who liberated Uganda, is the 2 generals, General Bazilio, Olara Okello, and General Tito Okello Lutwa. They are the one who took over the government of Uganda. They are the one who wanted to stop the war, because it was destroying Uganda. They are the one who handed over power to National Resistance Movement in a silver plate. NRM did not liberate Uganda. You fought for 4 years. Don't misuse the kindness of this general and then turn it into a weakness. No. And that is not going to happen. They are the real liberators. We know during the second regime of Obote, when the NRA had been violating human rights in Uganda, blowing up buses full of women and children, killing UPC supporters in Luweero Triangle, and blaming it on the government, on the army. They used the tactics of delaying peace negotiation in Nairobi while preparing for a total takeover of the government of Tito Lutwa. You see, this is what we should have seen coming. That is what we should have known right from the time we came back from Tanzania. We should have known that when NRM or NRA were in position, they misused the power of their office in recruiting foreigners who are not Ugandans to fight their war. They were trained using Uganda taxpayers' money. Educated using Uganda taxpayers' money. We should have known. And when we went for the peace talk in Nairobi, before signing the peace agreement, we should have thought twice. The peace agreement was never implemented. They seized power in January 1986. Let me be very clear. Many Ugandans are jubilating up to today that it was NRA that liberated Uganda. That is a naked lie. NRA never won the liberation war. It was handed over to them on a silver plate. If they have a little bit of respect left in them, they should admit and come out and say, dear Ugandans, we did not liberate Uganda, but we are destroying Uganda of today. we are destroying it very badly. And let me tell you something. After the Second World War, the Jews were murdered and killed. They came back and they started recording history, what happened to them, who did it, and how they did it. For us, the people of the Wero Triangle, the people of Acholi Triangle, the people of northern Uganda, we have just started recording history and what happened to our people. Those involved in brilliant genocide will not escape the justice ahead. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe.